Hi everyone, in this video I'm gonna show you how to use Mapbox SDK, and we're gonna implement some functionalities to learn how to use it. So the first thing which we're gonna do is that you need to go to Mapbox website, which is there's a link on learn.gold. So if you go to week 5, and the first link is the Mapbox. So if you click on it here, it takes us to the Mapbox website. And so what I want you to do is to create an account for yourself, because in order to use the Mapbox, you need to have an account. And once you have an account, then we can start using it. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna start from an empty Unity project. But if you already have if you have already a project that you want to use sort of a location-based feature, you can use that project. But in this example, I'm gonna work with the empty project. So this is basically just a plain normal Unity project. So if you want to make one like this, you go to new and you select, you give it a name, your location, and you select 3D and click on create, and that is it. And the next thing you want to do is that we want to download the Mapbox SDK. So if I go to here, on the website, once you create an account, you sort of get to this panel, which is account.mapbox.com. And here you can click on Unity logo and download it. Or I also uploaded the SDK to learn.co, so you can download it here as well. So you just click here, it takes you to the web page, and all you have to do is that you click on here, which is a link for the SDK, and it starts downloading. So in order to save time, I already downloaded the SDK. So now we're gonna learn how we can import this to our project. So there's actually multiple ways. You can either go, so this is a package. So like developers, when they make tool in Unity, they can export it as a package so other people can use it in their project. So how can we add this package to our Unity project? So you can go either to the to assets and do import package. So you do custom package and select it, which is this one, or you can just double click on it, which opens it in Unity, or you can just drag it to your Unity project. So in here I just dragged it. Okay, now here is the important part, so if you pay attention, I try to minimize all these folders, so let's minimize them. So you see that Mapbox SDK has multiple folders that it's going to, all of them gonna get imported to our Unity project by default. But we actually don't want this, because if you see, these are sort of AR example. And the problem with these examples are that they're using older version of sort of Unity AR implementation, which is not supported anymore. So if you import this, you're gonna have error in your project. So we're gonna disable all of these, and we're gonna only import Mapbox. We do not want to import Mapbox AR. Make sure you deselect this. So only the Mapbox folder. And I'm gonna click on import. Okay, so now once it's imported to our project, it's gonna ask us to input our access token, and that is why we needed a Mapbox account. So now if I go back to the Mapbox website, here in my account sort of dashboard, here it has a section called access token. So I'm gonna click on create a token and just give it a name. So just any name of your application would be good. So I'm gonna say like location game, and you can just leave this as default and click on create token. It's gonna ask here for password, enter it and click on submit. And now this is the one that I created, location game. So I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna click here, copy. I'm gonna go back and import it and click on submit. So it's valid. If you get this valid message, which means everything is good. So now I'm just gonna close this. So now let's check our console. So it gives like a bunch of error and warnings. So if you just click on clear, they all should go away. And now let's open the scene that we're gonna work with. So if I go to Mapbox folder, and if I go to examples, the first one, which is called zero prefab scene, click on this and open the location-based game, Unity. So this is the example project that we're gonna work on. Now, before I started working, I'm just gonna change my Unity layout because I've found that the default Unity layout that it comes with is not very best for working in project, because like for example you have your scene and you have your game and you cannot view them at the same time, and I don't think it's the best sort of orientation. So I'm gonna go here, which is it's for changing the layout. I'm gonna change it to this one, tall. Now so now all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna drag my game scene to like here. So as you can see, I can view my scene and I can view my game at the same time, which makes the process a lot easier when you're making the app. The only problem here is that we don't have sort of the console panel anymore, so I'm gonna bring it back. So I'm gonna go window, I'm gonna go to general and I'm gonna select console. So now we have our console panel and I'm gonna add it right down here, so I can easily read all of the messages. So now what we're gonna do, right now we are in PC and sort of Mac computer platform, but I wanna build a mobile application, and in this example I wanna use Android. If you have iOS, you can use iOS. So just select the platform you want to build the app for. If you want to build it for computer, just stay in computer platform. So I'm just gonna switch to Android platform. And whenever you want to switch platform, it's always actually better you do it early on when your project is like empty and you haven't added that many stuff, because it takes less time. So now we're just gonna wait for it to finish. Okay, so now it's finished. What I'm gonna do now is that let's clear this. So let's just play. Let's play this scene and see what's gonna happen. So you see, it's showing me a map. It's sort of a random location, and giving me some information, so I can click on this maze and it goes away. So first thing what we want to do is that, let's say we want to develop an app, and I want to see sort of my location. What you can do is that if I go to like location based game here and location provider, here you see it has, so these are the location provider factors for different scenarios. So if you're on a device, it's gonna use this one. If we are on Android, it's gonna use sort of this script. And we are in editor now. So if you look here, it's using editor location provider, which is basically okay, so if we look here, it's actually this game object, and if you look at it and read the script, it's basically like a random location provider, as you saw it showed on the map. But I want to be able to sort of tell the program where my player is. So in here, instead of editor location provider, I'm going to change this to this one, editor location array provider. And if we find the game object, which is this one, editor location array provider, and here it has sort of a list, latitude, longitude, sort of an array for storing the position. So basically what this does is that we can tell it where we are, so it shows the location. So let's say that I want to sort of test my app as if I'm in Goldsmiths right now. So if I go to Google Map, and let's search for Goldsmiths. Okay, so if I write, so now I want to, as you saw here, is using long and lat position. So if you want to get that, all you have to do in Google Map, basically wherever you want to get the position for, in this case here, you right click and it also give you the longitude and latitude position. So I'm just gonna click on it and copy it, and I'm gonna paste it in here. And instead of 5 different sort of position, I'm just going to change this to 1. So basically what we are doing now, we are telling the Mapbox for our sort of for when I'm in editor, my location is always gonna be here, and I'm gonna be consistently here. I'm not gonna move around. So if I play, now it should show me the Goldsmiths university location. As you can see, yeah, Goldsmiths, this is a university main building, this is a green area, so the location is showing up correctly. And this is useful because when we are building the sort of the app and testing the stuff, we don't want to build our app every time. So because if you build the application as it is now, it will show you the live location. Because if you go here, location provider, and if you click on device location provider, it's not going to use the editor setting. It's going to use your device actual location. So it would show your location live on the map. But since we are in editor and we want to test the stuff, we are using the editor location. So now we have done this. Basically, we want to spawn some sort of, let's say, events on the map. So let's say I want to, here is the student union. I want to have like a sort of the marker here, and maybe in the green area, I want to have a marker in here as well, yeah? So how can we do this? First thing that I'm gonna do, I want to import sort of some game object to represent the marker. So if you go here, I sort of find some game object online which are free to use, and we can use it. And I'm gonna import them. And so you click on downloading this. This is actually a Unity package as well. And in this package, there is another sort of script which is useful for calculating a distance, which we're gonna use later. So for now, let's just import this. So I have my Unity here. I'm just gonna double click on it. So as you can see, it's a prefab. It has a material, and we are also importing a script called GeoCoordinate. And I'm gonna talk about later on what are we gonna use this script for. So let's import this. Okay, so now as you can see, so this is gonna represent sort of, let me open it. So yeah, this is gonna represent our sort of events that we're gonna spawn on the map. So what I want to do is that I want to make like a folder and name it prefabs, and actually move this event prefab inside that folder, so everything is sort of organized and nice. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create an empty game object, and I'm gonna call it event. We can call it event spawner. Yeah. And since this is empty, the practice that some people use is that they put like sort of like a dash line here that represent that this object doesn't actually have a 3D sort of 3D material or 3D model inside. It's just empty. So without actually going to check, you can tell what is empty and what's not. And in here, I'm gonna add one of the Mapbox default script, which is called spawn on map. Yeah. So now in here, without even opening the script, we can already understand how it works. So first it says, okay, you want to spawn on a map, so what is the map? So here it has sort of a variable for map, and if you select sort of this circle in here, we can just select the map. So this is our map object from our scene. And what this sort of circle does, and because sometimes people get confused, this would search whatever you have in your sort of scene. It would search which one of these objects can actually go and be assigned in here. So in our case, the map game object is the only object that can get assigned in here. So it's automatically detecting it and showing it up. It's an easy way to sort of assign variables. And now it says marker prefab. And actually, what we want to do is that we want to you see it has two options. So now it's searching for the scene, but actually our marker is not in the scene, it's in the asset. So I'm gonna go here and go to asset, so I can search for it, event pointer, and I'm gonna add it. Another way of assigning is that, so if I want to cancel this assignment, I just select here and click on delete. Another way of assigning it is just, you can just drag it from here to here. Okay. So now we need to give the position that we want to assign our event. So let's go back to Google Map again. So we said that we want to have one in the green area, which is here. So let me right click here and copy this. So I'm gonna click on the plus icon. So I wanna add the event. So this is the first event. So that is it. You don't need, you just copy the location, the long and lat, and paste it here. So, and the next one was gonna be in Student Union, which I think is here. So I right click here and copy this, and I'm gonna paste it here as well. So Now let's just click on play and see what's happening. Cool. So we have our location here, and the other one is here as well, but they're a bit inside the map, as you can see. So if I like click on here, I drag it up. Oh, the position gets locked, so we can drag them out. But I'm gonna show you how we can fix this problem. But it's working, so they got spawned in the correct position. Now, what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna get rid of this sort of message which appears every time. So I believe if I go to canvas, no, I think this is from the info canvas. So I'm just gonna disable this because it's blocking our view and we don't really need it. So now let's play again. Okay. So now what we can do, let's actually work on our map to make it a bit more prettier. So if you go in here on map, there's all sort of settings in here which you can play around with. So actually let's play it and change this setting. So if I go to sort of, let's open all these. So if you want to change sort of the appearance of it, you need to go to image and let's change it to Mapbox Light. Okay, so this already I think looks a lot better and cleaner. There's all other one too. This sort of satellite image representation. These are with street name. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go with Mapbox Light. And you can actually do sort of a lot of stuff. You can represent building height. So for example, if I go in here, and do, no, actually, it's in the, yeah, codes of Mapbox layers. You click the first one. And in here, I believe you can add, if you go to features, you can add sort of buildings. So now it shows sort of some of the buildings based on Mapbox data. But so far I've been just testing it and I've been in the play mode. So now if I stop playing, all of this gonna get reset. So this is something you should remember as well. In Unity, when you change stuff, make sure you're not in the play modes because whatever you do gets resets when you stop. So, but I only want to change this to Mapbox Light, and I think that is it. And there's another thing I want to change as well. In here, you see there's like this area that is empty. So I believe if we increase the zoom a bit, we can fix that. So it's 16.32. So I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna stop playing and I'm gonna paste it in here. Okay, so now if I play again, okay. Okay, let's change the aspect ratio to 16:9. Okay, so basically for changing that, you can go to scripts and change it like manually, which is fine. But for now, I think this is fine. So now let's play around with our event a bit. So basically what I want to do next, so let's say I'm playing the game. When I click on this, I want to detect that the user has clicked on this game object. So let's go in here, let's make a new script. C# script, and I'm gonna call it event pointer. And I'm gonna go to my prefab, to my event pointer, and I'm gonna add a new component, which is the script I just created, event pointer. And let's open this script and let's make some functionalities. So the first thing what I want to do is that before we start checking sort of the being able to click the game object and do other things with it, I want to sort of, as we saw before, they were sort of inside our map. I want to bring them up, and I can actually do it very easily through this script. So I'm gonna create a new method or function. I'm gonna do void, I'm gonna call it float and rotate pointer. So it's gonna bring the pointer up and it's gonna make it rotate. And so this is a private function. Whenever you don't specify it, it's private. So this is same as saying private void. And if you want to make it public, then you have to specify it. So you do public void. But for now, I want this to be private because I'm not going to use it anywhere else. So we can keep it as private. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create sort of couple of variables here. Let's do serialized field, private, rotation, speed. And we can do like 50. I forgot the type. It's float. Let's do 50. And whenever you do a float variable, you need to put the F in the end of it. So that is. And what serialized field does is that if I show you here, so let's Unity recompile. You see here is showing my variable. So if I remove this now and go back, it's not showing it anymore. So serialized field bring private variables into inspector, and the point of that is that it makes it easier to change it. So let's say that later on, when you're designing sort of the app, you want to increase the rotation speed or decrease it, you can do it without the need to opening the code. Now, if you declare the variable as public, it will automatically show it in. But if you have something private that you want to be shown in inspector, you need to add serialized field. So now we're gonna create a couple of more variables. So private, again, float, and this one is for amplitude. And let's do sort of 2. And another one. And we don't actually, I don't need to specify private. So as I said before, if you don't say private, programming languages would if you don't say anything in this part, the programming languages would automatically assume it's private. So I do float frequency, cool, and let's do 0.50. And I'm gonna, to make my code cleaner, I'm gonna remove this because there's no need to sort of say private, because if you just leave it like this, it's automatically private. Now it's giving me an error here because it's a float and I did not put the F in the end of it. So now it's fine. Now we're gonna go here and write. So first we're gonna rotate the script and then we want to bring it up. So I do transform dot rotate. So you do vector3 dot up, and we do rotation times time dot delta. So what this does is that if you go here in Visual Studio, and if I go to rotate, it actually shows me how this function works. So basically all you need to do, you give it an axis and you give it the angle that you want to rotate. And that's basically how it works. And I did vector up, which is basically like it's like 0, 0, and 1. It's like a predefined vector position in Unity. And I do time state times dot delta time to make sort of the rotation speed smooth in our program. And now we want to bring it up. So I do transfer dot position. So I get the transfer of the position of my current game object, whatever game object this script is attached to, and I give it a new position. I say new vector3, and position in Unity is always represented by vector3, because vector3 is basically, it means it can get 3 numbers, so, and position is represented by 3 numbers, x, y, and z. And let me actually zoom in here so maybe you can see better as well. Okay. Yeah. So now I'm gonna do transfer dot position dot x. So I'm gonna get whatever current x position the game object has. And now I want to sort of move it up a bit, and sort of this is also part of the rotation. So this is a bit like sort of complex, but you don't really need to know how it works. Basically it's some Unity math function because rotation actually is a complex topic fairly, even it seems like easy just moving an object around. Is complex in all game engine because it can cause problem. So basically I'm gonna use the math_sin function. I'm gonna do time that fixed time, and I'm gonna do times math dot pi times my frequency times amplitude, and I'm gonna do plus, like this is basically how much up you want the object be. Let's do, in my case I want it to be 15, and now we are in the Z position, and I'm gonna just use the default Z position. So I'm gonna do transfer the position, that's it. Let's make this a bit smaller. Okay. So here, if you don't really need to understand this part because it's not the point of sort of this lecture. This is just a rotation effect which we're gonna create. I'm gonna explain. We're gonna spend more time on the important stuff, which is how we can create on functionality. So this is a variable which I created. So we need to call this variable. So you need to go to void update and call this. So I'm gonna do here float and rotation pointer, which is name of my method, and I'm gonna call it in here, and that's it. So now all I have to do is to click on play, and you see now they're coming up and they're rotating as well, which looks already much nicer. So now let's do click detection. So how can I check whether I have clicked on it, or in case I'm on the sort of mobile phones, I have touched on the event object. It's actually very simple. So all you do is you do private, you do like void, and Unity has actually a built-in method for it. You do on mouse down. So now it means that if mouse or touch has clicked on this game object, it will detect it, and now you can do functionality. So let's do a test first. We do debug.log. We do let's say clicked. So now let's test our code. So if I click on my object, I should see a debug message in here which it says clicked. As you can see, it did one, and it's, yeah, you see it? It's, the messages are coming. It's working. So now what I want to do next is that I want to display some sort of I want to check the distance. I want to check how far the player is from that event. And this is where this sort of script that we imported, we're gonna use that for. So what I'm gonna do is that you actually need to import a couple of things before we can start working on checking the distance. So I'm gonna check here. I'm gonna say using mapbox.example. I'm gonna do using mapbox.utility because there's some code in here which we want to use in this script. Yeah. So let's add a comment in here. Mapbox. Yeah, so we are using the Mapbox library. Okay, so now we need to add some variables in here as well. So I'm gonna make location status. This is a Mapbox sort of variable which allows us to get the location of the player, and I'm set it to player location. So this is basically the name of the variable. I'm naming it as player location. And the next thing I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna do I'm gonna create sort of like let's do serialized fields. Basically I want to also be able to store the event position because I need to access them. I'm gonna do a vector 2D. So basically it's like X, the long and lat, so there are only two position. We don't need to use vector 3. I'm gonna call it sort of event pose. Actually, I need to declare this as public, and I'm gonna exactly show you why. So before we can do things, we need to get the event position, because right now we are spawning the event on the position that we want, but we are not storing them. So later on, and we don't know which event we have clicked on. So I'm gonna go to my event spawner. I'm gonna go to spawn event script. So this is a Mapbox script. What we need to add some changes to it. And the changes I want to add is that here where the spawning is happening. So we are spawning the event, and yeah, this is where instantiate is basically the Unity function method for the spawning. Now once I spawn the event, what I want to do is that I want to save the location of that event in the script, so later on I can access it. So here so Mapbox is actually, so this code is actually nice because they make it instant. They basically make a copy of the object that they are spawning, so they can change it and keep track of it. and we actually can use this instance to set the value for the event pose. So here, if I do instance dot, I do get component, and what the component that I want to access it is actually this script event pointer. So I do event pointer, and inside this script, what do I want to access? I want to access this variable which I created, event pose, and I'm gonna do dot event pose. Now we can set the event pose, and the event position is actually this location, which is the array of location. So I'm gonna set it to location I, and the reason I pass I inside, because this is a for loop, so basically it goes through all of the location that we are defining in here. So here I'm saying is that if you're spawning the object 0, which is this one, I want to get the location for 0 in here. So if you're spawning the second location, this one, I want to get the second one here. So now let's save all of this and let's test it, see if we actually did manage to make the copy of the event location. So if I click on play, now here are event that got spawned. So if I click here, now if you open this, you see it saves the location of that event. It's here, and now if I go to the other one, it shows it as well, and they're not the same. As you can see, it's different values and they're different location, which means our method worked. And so now the thing that you might ask yourselves, why do we need this? Why do we need the event location? Because we want to use this to calculate the distance between the player position and the event position. So that's why we needed to have access to this. And the next thing we're gonna do, we just need to calculate the location, which is not that, which we're gonna use that script which we earlier imported, so the geo coordinates. So let's do that. So here, if I do, when we clicked on the location, I'm gonna say player location is gonna be equals to, so if we go to, let me actually comment this out for now. If we play this, so your location, actually this script which called location status is responsible for handling user location. Basically it gives the current location of the user. So we want to access this script and we want to basically get the player location value. So how can we do that? So this script is in Canvas game object, and it's one of the component in here. So I'm gonna do player location is equals to game object dot find. So I want to find the Canvas game object, and I'm gonna get the component I want, which is the location status. And that's it for now. Inside the location status, now let's actually open up this script to get sort of an understanding what it does. So it basically, all it is doing is that it's getting the user location and is displaying it. Now I actually want to add some two custom method in here. Okay, so now this is the location status script. What we want to do is we want to access this current location. But the problem is they're defining it inside void update, which means that we cannot access it outside. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy this, and instead of defining it here, I'm going to create the variable in here and assign it in here. So I don't need the location anymore. I don't need to say the type. So I say current location equals to my location. And now here inside our class, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say public. Now we usually so far everything we've worked on is always void. Void means that the function does not need to return anything. But there's other type of function which can return values. And how does this method and function work is that all you have to do is you need to specify the type of variable that you want to return. So in our case, double. And double is basically like a float, but more accurate than the float. So it has more number, so can handle more accurate number. And I do get location that. So here I do, now I need to return something because it's giving me an error because it says that you need to return a value and you're not returning anything. So I do return and I do my current location dot latitude longitude dot x, and another one I do public double get location, this time long, I do return current location latitude dot y. So we are getting the long and lat and we are returning it. And using this, now I can access this location inside my event pointer, which makes the programming part a lot easier. So now here, what I do is that I also need to get the player current location. So here I do var. So here we got familiar with different type of variables. There's something also called var, and var means that you don't have to define the type. The program will find it for you. But the only thing you need to remember when using the var is that you can only declare a variable as a var only if you are inside the method. So if you do var here, it's going to give you error. It doesn't work. It only works inside the method. In other programming languages, you can do it anywhere, but in C#, it only works inside the method. So I do current player location. So I create a variable called current player location, and now I need to assign it. So I do new, and now we're going to use some Mapbox inside sort of method and API call. So I do new geo coordinate portable dot geo coordinate, and I do player location dot get location latitude, and I do player location dot get location the long. And these are actually, so you see we are using the method that we are created in this script before, and we are passing these inside sort of this geo coordinate script. And this is actually what we imported before. So we are using this script to handle the location. Cool. So now this is gonna be the current location of the player. Now we want to basically get the event location. So I do var event location equals to new, again, geo coordinate portable, which is that script or library which can handle location, and I do geo coordinate, and I'm gonna pass, as you remember before, we saved the location inside here, and now I can easily access them. So I do event pose 0. Actually, it doesn't need this I, so I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to do event pose 0 and event pose 1. Okay, so now, so we have the location of the player, we have the location of the event. Now I want to check the distance, so I do var distance is equals to current player location, which is this, and now we're gonna use another sort of method from that script that we imported. I'm gonna call it get distance, and now we pass the event location in here. And now let's actually test it. So I do debug.log, debug.log distance is, and let's pass the distance. And I'm gonna delete this because we already tested this, it's working. So okay, so now it's saying that, okay, yeah, it's giving me the error because before here I had the E, extra E, and I removed it, so I need to remove it here as well. So now it's fine. So now if I click on play, so let me clear. So if I click on this event, it says that my distance from it is 63 meter point, like we don't care about the rest of it. And if I click here, it says it's 151 meter. So it's calculating the distance correctly. So that is good. So we got a lot of functionalities done. So now we can do the fun part, which is we can create conditions. So now that we know the distance, we can say that, okay, if let's say if user is distance from the event is less than 70 meter, they can actually join the event and do some stuff. So now we're gonna learn how we can do that. So what I want to do, I want to make a script, and I'm gonna call it menu UI manager. So it's gonna handle my UI work when I'm inside the map. And since it's dealing with the UI, I'm gonna attach it to the canvas. So now inside my canvas, I want to make some UI effect. So I'm gonna go UI. I want to make a plane. Plane is basically like it's a tint color. It's basically like an image that you can add, and I'm gonna make it smaller. So let me bring it down, yeah, and let's move it into the middle of our screen, like about here. And here, let's define the position as well, so it's gonna be in the middle. So I'm gonna check the middle. And what this does, the rect transform, this sort of selecting it helps later on when, because there are a lot of different devices with different screen sizes. So when you define it in here, it helps Unity to be able to reposition things in your project based on a screen size, and it's gonna make things easier. And before we start doing anything else, actually I want to change some setting here. Instead of here, it says UI scale mode. I want to change it to scale with the screen size. Yeah, and sort of I can change it to 1920 by 1080, which is sort of like a 1080p. And now we can rescale things in sort of our project. So let's make this bigger. So it should be till here, go up. And let's name this event event panel, because I want to have two panels, one when we show when the user is in the range of event, and one when the user is not in the range. So I'm gonna call this event panel user in range. It's a long name, but it's easy to to basically understand what it does. So now here I'm gonna say add a text. So first let's make our text bigger. Okay, so now you see it's like a text is not showing it up anymore, and the reason for that is that text has like a bounding box, as you can see in here, and it's because our text is bigger than the bounding box, so it's not showing up. So if I make this bigger, it will come back. So let's make this a lot bigger so we can have, let's make it again, I think this is a good size, so make it like bold. So now I can say, what should we say? We can say like join the event, something like that. Okay. So let's put it here, and now I want to add sort of two buttons so the user can click if they want to join. They can click on join, or they can click on sort of close, so they can close the event panel. So here if I go UI button, and again let's make our button bigger because it's a lot small. And if you want to spot some object quickly in your scene, you can click on the button, and you can click on, when you are in your scene, just press the F key and it will quickly find it for you. So now let's make this bigger. Okay, so let's move it down like here maybe, and let's expand this because we want to make the text bigger because it's really small now. So this is gonna be join. Let's make our button, yeah, join. And I'm gonna name this join button. Let's duplicate this. So I'm gonna do Control D or Command D if you're using Mac. And here, this one, I'm gonna set it as close, or yeah, so close panel. Like you can make it prettier later on. So you do close button. Change the name as well. Yeah. So this is when so this gonna show up when the user is in the range, and I want to make another panel, so I'm gonna duplicate this and let's disable it. And here, event panel user, instead of in range, I'm gonna change the name to not in range. And let's change the text so we can tell the user you are not in the range, move closer. So our text is not showing up because the problem is again the bounding box. So if I go here and make this bigger, yeah. And actually I want my text to be positioned in the middle, so I'm gonna change the setting. Okay, this is fine. We don't need the join button anymore because they're not in the range, so they cannot join it. So we delete that. So we're gonna only have the close button here. Okay, cool. So now we disable this because by default we don't want them to be active. So now in our UI manager, we're actually gonna create some functionalities to be able to display this. So first thing, so I want to activate this object whenever I want to. And so first we need to access this. So I do serialize field, private game object, because these are game object, and I'm gonna call it event panel user in range. And another one, event panel user not in range. So now if I go here, now I can assign this. So I'm gonna drag the user in range here and user not in range in here. So now let's go back to our script. So I'm gonna create a new method. I'm gonna call it public void display. I'm gonna call it display start event panel, and here I'm gonna say event panel user in range. So I want to activate this, so I do dot set active true. Now here let's make the same method for the event panel user not in range. So I do user public void display user not in range panel, and I'm gonna do event panel user not in range dot set active to true. So if this method gets called, the object gonna get activated. And I made a mistake here. Yeah. So now I want to call this inside my event pointer. So if the distance is less than, let's say, 70, I want to show that you can join that event. If it's more than that, I want to tell the user you are not in range. So I say, let's comment this out. We don't need it anymore. I can delete it. Actually, let's keep it because we want to use it for testing. So I do if distance is less than 70, I'm gonna show the event panel. So actually what I need to do, I want to access the UI manager in here. So I'm gonna make a variable of UI manager it's called menu UI manager. And okay, yeah. So what we're gonna do, this is actually is called script communication. So I have some void here, some method here. I want to call them inside here. So first, now I create sort of an empty variable. Now I need to assign it. So how can I assign it? It's simple. So now I do menu UI manager in the start. So I'm gonna tell it where the program needs to search for the menu UI manager. So it's attached to canvas and it's one of the components. So here I do game object dot find the canvas dot get component, and the component is menu UI manager. The component is menu UI manager, and I gonna close it. So now we got access to the menu UI manager. So here I can do menu UI manager dot display start event panel. Now else, if the distance is bigger, I want to do menu UI dot display user not in range panel. So now let's test this. So this is the one that is far away. So if I click on this, it says I'm not in range. Now our close button doesn't work because we didn't implement the functionality for it. So let's restart it. Now if I close on this one, it should says that I'm in range. Yes. So I can join the event and I can click on join. Now it doesn't do anything. So let's actually implement the close button function. Yeah. So I say we need to go to our UI manager. And here I say public close button click. Now I can make two separate close button, one for display when user in range panel and when the user is in not in range, but I actually can only make one and use it for both. So I say if this function gets called, I want to set this one to false. I want to set this one to false as well. So we want to disable them. So now how can we assign this method to our button? So if I go here, this is a close button. Let's scroll down. This is a component for button, and here it has on click. So if you click on plus, now you can specify the script that you want to use, and the script I want to use is attached to the canvas and it's the menu UI manager. So you drag the canvas here and now you open this. This is the script I'm looking for, menu UI manager, and find the function that function or method that we created, which is close button click. Yeah. Let's do the same for when user is not in range. So click on plus, canvas, UI manager, close button. Now click on play. So I click on this. Now I don't want to join. I want to close this. I click on close. It's working. Here, close. Now these are nice, but there is actually a bug in here. And the problem is, let's say I click on here and I click on this one, you see they are getting activated, both of them. So we need to make sort of like in our script, we need to add some changes that says if a panel is already active, the other one should not get activated. So how can we do that? So here, I go to my script and I make a new boolean. I do like bool is what should we can call it is UI panel active, yeah. And here I'm gonna check before displaying something. I'm gonna check if is UI panel is active is equals to false, then I can display it. And once I displayed it, I should set my boolean to true because now the panel is active. And same goes for here. So I do if is UI panel active equals to false, then I can display the panel. And once I displayed it, I set the active status to true. But we also need to set it to false when we close it. So in here, where we have our close function, I set is UI panel active to false because once we click on close button, we close everything. So now let's test it. So I click here. Now if I click there, it doesn't do anything anymore. So I need to close this and then click it. Now it works. And if I click on this one, it doesn't do anything. Okay, so these are working, and like we implement so far some good functionalities, but one more thing I want to add is that, which is, okay, so I have, let's say I have a lot of events and I want to check basically which event has the user clicked on to. So I want to know what do I need to activate. So here what I can do is that we can do, first I want to assign an ID to my event. And the reason for that is that because right now we are defining the events using location, and that's all right for showing them and displaying them, but the problem is once we want to sort of check which event it is, it's a bit hard to use location. It's easier to just use a number. So let's say this is event 1, this is event 2, this is event 3, and we can do some condition based on that. So let's create an event ID. So in my event pointer, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna do a public integer and I'm gonna call it event ID. Yeah. And how do I want to assign the ID? So what I want to do is that I want it to be like this. So if I go to my event spawner, I want this to be event 1, this to be event 2, and let's say I have like 10, so it goes from top to bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, like that. So now I need to assign the ID to them. So I go to spawn on map, and what I need to do in here is that I want to give them the ID. So here is where we are giving them the location, and we can do the same. So I do instance.getComponent, I do event pointer, because the variable I want to access is in the event pointer, and it's called event ID. So the ID, basically this for loop starts at the top and goes through everything, so it goes element, and this is also important to remember. Computer always starts counting from 0, not from 1. So this would be element 0, this would be element 1, goes on. And I can do the same for my event. So the first one should be event 0, the next one should be event 1, but I want it to be normal, like a human way of counting. So I do I, which is the variable in our for loop, but instead of passing I, I'm going to do +1. So this way the first element is not 0, is 1, and the second element is not 1, is 2. Okay, so now if I click on play, and let's go to our event. So if I scroll down, you see event ID 1 and this one event ID 2, and easily now I can identify which events they are. So what else we can do? So let's say I want to load two scenes based on what user have selected. So our location, one of them was sort of the green area of university, the other one was Goldsmith Student Union. So I'm gonna create a scene. Let's do like Goldsmiths student union. Okay, let's open it, save whatever we done. So here I'm gonna create I'm gonna change the camera to solid color. Let's do like let's do gold. It's Goldsmith, so yeah. And let's add a text. So I do UI. Let's make it bigger. Again, change the bounding box so the text would appear. I'm gonna do Goldsmiths Student Union. Let's move it to the top. Let's make it middle. Let's position it to the top. Okay. Let's save this. Okay. And let's duplicate this one and rename it to Goldsmiths green area. Yeah. And let's change the color to green. Okay, so now let's go back to the scene which we were working on. I think it was called location-based game. Okay, yeah. Here, what we want to do is that so if I click on the student union, I want to go to the student union scene. If I join the green area event, I want to go to that one. So I can make another empty game object, and I'm gonna call it event manager. And let's make another script. We can call it event manager. Okay, let's attach it. So, and let's open it. before I do anything, I want to make a change to my sort of the logic I made. Because here you see we are hard coding the distance we are checking, and this is not a very nice way of programming, designing our program, because let's say every time we want to change the distance, we need to come in here, which doesn't make much sense. We can do it better. So I can actually do it in my event manager. So here, what I do, I create a public integer called, let's say, max distance. So the maximum distance that I can be away from the event. And let's do like 70. So here, instead of passing this sort of the hard value, hard-coded number, what I can do, I can access this max distance. So here I do event manager equals to, give it the name, yeah, and so we need to access it. So we create a variable, but it's empty, we need to assign it. So the event manager is in the game event manager game object, and it's one of the components. So I do event manager equals to game object find. Make sure the naming needs to be exactly the same. So event manager dot get component event manager, and now here I can do event manager dot max distance. So we are not hard coding it anymore. At any time I can change it, and let's try it. So here okay, so I think I named it wrong, so let me copy and paste it here. Yeah, I misspelled it. So now I click on play. So I'm in range, which is true, is 60 meter, 63 meter. In this one, I'm not in ranges. It's because it's 151. So now let's make this bigger. So if I make it 200, now I should be able to join this one. So yeah, it's working. And let's say if I do like make it very close, I make it like 10, so I cannot join any of these. So it says I'm not in the range, and it says I'm not in the range. So it's working. And for this example, since we are testing, let's say in 200, set it to 200 because I want to be able to join both of the event. Now let's go back to our script. So when the user has clicked on the join, I should take the user to the scene which is related to that event. So do you remember before we create the event ID? So here I actually want to pass in the event ID. So I want to access that in here. So I do int event ID. And I need to go back in here because now it's gonna give me error because it says you need to pass an integer and you're not passing anything. So now what I do, I already have the event ID here, so I do the event ID of this whatever event the user has created, has clicked on. So I pass it in, and now let's make a new method for when the user clicks on join. So I do public void on join button click, and now here let's say let's do debug message. So I do debug.log joined event. So now we need to, I want to I want to get this event number to here. So we need to cache the value, which basically means like make a copy of this. So I do like int current event, or actually let's do temp is better. Temp event, which is means temporary event. And now I do event ID, and temp event is equals to event ID, and I can pass it here. So event temp event. So now we need to assign the yes button to this method that we created. So I go to here, join button, click on plus, canvas, join button. Okay, so now, so let's see, which one is this one? So this is the event 1 is the green area, the event 2 is the student union one. So if I click here and click on join, yeah, it says joined event 2. Click here, click on joined event 1. It's working. So now the only thing is we need to switch scene. So in my event manager, I do public void display, no, you can call it activate event, and I want to get the event ID, so I do int event ID, yeah, and now if event ID was equals to 1, which was the one was student union, and if event ID equals to 2, that was the green area. So let's just write it so I remember. Student union green area. So when the user clicks on event 1 and clicks on play, I want to load the Goldsmiths student union scene. So let's copy this, because when you're loading the scene, the name needs to be exact. So you actually need to import something first. You do using Unity engine that's scene management, and in here you do scene manager the load scene, and now you pass the name. And for the green area, the same thing. I copy, I do scene manager dot load scene green area. And one more things that we need to do, we need to call this inside our UI manager. So I'm gonna do like serialized field private event manager. So I create the empty variable of type event managers so I can access this method. So here is here. So it's empty, we need to assign it. So we drag the event manager here. And now, instead of this debug message, I'm gonna do event manager dot activate event, and we're gonna pass the temporary event which we save. And one more thing before we can load the scene is that when you want to load the scene, you need to add everything to your scene manager. So first I'm gonna add the scene which is open, and I'm gonna add these two. So now let's test it. So if I click on this one, okay, so yeah, we did we got the number wrong. So this should go in here, this should go in here. So that's the student union, and let's play it again. And if I join this one, that's the green area. So the only thing that is left is that how to get back to our original map scene. So let's say we joined this event, we did some AR experience, now we want to go back to the map again. So in here, let's save everything. I'm gonna add like a button. Let's make it bigger again. And let's make it like map. Okay. And what I can do is that I can make another script, and I'm gonna call it event UI manager. And here I want to switch scene, so I need to import the scene manager. So using Unity Engine dot scene management, and now I do public void on map button click. So I do scene manager.load scene, and the name of the scene, I think it was location based, this one. So I'm gonna copy the exact name. So yeah, so if I attach this here, go to my button, click on play, drag it, and let's find the method that we created here. Okay, I'm gonna save this, and let's do the same thing for the other one. So make a button, change it to map, make it bigger, and I don't need to make another script, I can just use the one I created. So attach it and find the event. Okay, so now let's save this, and let's go back to our original location based game. So now if I click play, I join this one, go to Student Union, I go back to the map, I can join this one, go to my green area, and yeah, everything is working. So you can use these sort of functionalities to make your AR application. So right now I'm just loading a basic scene, but for your app you can load whatever AR experiences that you want to load based on that location. So that is it for this video.